All right, Raf Diallo here from RT Sport. Delighted to be joined by Kildare's own James Roe, who is embarking on his second year in the Indy Lights series, which is going to be called the Indy NXT by Firestone series from this year onwards. It's one rung below the main IndyCar series, which is the pinnacle of open wheel single seater racing in the US. And James joins us fresh from signing with the reigning team champions, Andretti Autosport. James, first off, Happy New Year. And also, you must be delighted with this move.
Yeah, Raf, thank you for having me on first and foremost, and happy New Year to you too. Yeah, very happy. I mean, it's probably the biggest moment in my career. Actually, it is. It is. There's no probably about it. To sign with a team of such scale, known by 75% of U.S. households, Michael Andretti, Mario Andretti, involved in IndyCar, Indy Lights, Formula E, Extreme E, V8 supercars, in the middle of the F1 bid at the moment to be on the F1 grid. Here soon. It's just a powerhouse, so to speak. So yeah, for any racing driver to be out of their stable is a dream.
Yeah, and for yourself, I mean, how did the move actually come about? Because you had been racing with TJ Speed Motorsport, who we'll talk about last season anyway, a little bit later on, but you had been racing with them, a couple of races for the HMD Motorsport team as well, and then obviously Andretti are, as you said, a powerhouse in the sport. So when did conversations start in terms of making a move for this year?
So it was actually last July. Myself and JF Torman, he's the president of Andretti Autosport, got in touch with one another. He reached out to me at a race in Wisconsin and wanted to sit down and have a chat just to see what was going on. And basically, yeah, we sat down, had a chat, and he asked me some questions about the current season and what goals and plans are for the future and where I want to go to. And nothing more was really said, to be honest with you. Right after it, as I said, a team of such scale, there's drivers every day of the week banging their door down, and I just kept working on my craft and what I could do with the scenario that I was in at that given moment, and we stayed in touch. And long story short, I didn't think anything was happening, and was over here in Ireland last September, and phone rang, and it was JF Torman, and he offered me to come and test for the team for an evaluation test, a 2 day evaluation program, and said, "Come over, let's do the test. Let's see how you get on. See if essentially we like you, we like what you can do in a car, and ultimately you like us as well. Because it's a long year together as a team, and we'll go from there." So went and did the test. Thankfully, it went extremely well, and came back. Then actually had to go to Germany for a trade show for a sponsor with Topcon, went to Bauma in Munich, and he called me a week later and offered me a contract. So yeah, it's been honestly as much as that. But I suppose throughout it all, there's probably a lesson of just perseverance and staying after what your goal is, and I had a vision and a target that I wanted to be in the Andretti team this year, and that's where I felt it would be best fit for me. And thankfully, they saw the same thing in me.
Yeah, and it puts you in contention based on Andretti's reputation within the sport and also their track record for wins and challenging at the top end in 2023. Do you look at this as a sort of game changer in that sense?
Absolutely. I mean, it's even in the few days testing we did over the off season. We're now 4 days in on testing. It's just a different world, to be honest with you. I mean, the standard that they work to is so high, from engineers, team managers, crew chiefs, mechanics, what's expected of the drivers, from the top tier and Michael to JF and Torman, the president at the top, right the way down. Everyone's there to win, and that mindset, which ultimately stems from the Andretti, family, and Mario and Michael, is filtered throughout the business and the team. And it's a winning environment. And when you walk into a winning environment, you naturally spot a lot of differences right away, both on and off the racetrack. So yeah, testing has been going well with them, and a lot of the stuff that they do is quite different. And I'm just excited to be part of that, that change and that switch ultimately.
Yeah, of course, Mario Andretti will be well known as a Formula One world champion back in the 70s. Michael Andretti as well, with a very successful race career in the US. Have you had much chance to have a chat with Michael?
We spoke back and forth a few times. Nothing too deep yet. Michael Michael's a results-based man, so he obviously signed off and approved on a few things, and gave a few words of encouragement. But it's down to do the business now when you're under his roof.
Yeah, and your teammates for the year that have been confirmed: Lewis Foster, Hunter McElree, and also notably the W Series champion Jamie Chadwick. What's the dynamic going to be like, I suppose, in terms of how, or what do you expect in terms of the dynamic? Because obviously we know in most teams in motorsport where it's a dynamic of two teammates, four is going to be a little bit different.
Yeah, no, it's definitely different. What's really interesting about Andretti is just again based off the scale of their team. It's a four-car team, but ultimately four one-car teams within let's say the garage, because every car has its own crew chief and has its own full-time engineer and has its own mechanics. So yes, we all work together off track, but whilst we're at the track and operating and running and racing and testing and qualifying and so on and so forth, everything is ran in singular fashion. So the number isn't an issue. The dynamic's been great with my teammates so far. Hunter and I are actually very good friends off the track, and spend a lot of time together. Anyhow, he lives 2 doors down from me in Indianapolis, so he's very close to home, which maybe is a bit too close. But Jamie and Louis, yeah, met them at the test and get along well. And they're all winners in their respective championships. Hunter won a lot of races on the road to Indy. He was Rookie of the Year last year in Indy Lights. Louis, Indy Pro champion, and Jamie, of course, 3-time W Series champion. So surrounded by winners, and that mindset again from the team to the teammates. It's all about winning in that team right now.
Yeah, and you have the first year of experience in this category already behind you, of course, from last year. And I remember when we had the conversation during last year's interview that you talked about the Indy Lights, or what is now going to be Indy Next, as a sort of two year process, and it sort of bore true, because I was just looking at the championship standings, and no rookie got into the top five of the standings. So it is a steep learning curve.
Yeah, the basically the fact of the matter is that in North America, you'll never make a bigger jump than Indy Pro to Indy Lights compared to Indy Lights to IndyCar. It's double everything. So that obviously takes a little bit of getting used to, but it's also the level of the teams within the championship and the level of the engineers that are in it. There's a lot of IndyCar guys who come down to Indy Lights to work from season to season. So the quality is extremely high. So to think you're going to show up in year one, rookie driver with a rookie team, and be there is, it's a little bit optimistic. And as we spoke about a year ago, our plan is going through. We're still on track. Everything that has happened, it wasn't easy. I'll tell you that this year. There was a lot of punches and knocks along the way, but I expected that, because it was a new driver with a new team in a new championship with a new team crew essentially, and new group of engineers. So that was expected. And in some aspects, I think last year was probably the making of me, because mentally and essentially physically, there was a lot of blows there. And from a sports perspective, you can get through them. When you come into this environment that I'm in now, it's just a dream to be there, because everything runs so smoothly.
Yeah, so you mentioned sort of like the mental growth, and also the physical challenges. As we know, it's a really physical, motor racing is a hugely physical undertaking. So what did you feel you learned most about yourself on that mental side in terms of bouncing back from those setbacks?
I think number one, it's believing in yourself and knowing that you're there for a reason, and people are backing you for a reason, and you're in these positions for a given reason, and you have to stay true to that and stay true to yourself. But the biggest thing is just never to give up. Never ever give up, and that's my mindset. Perseverance is huge, but I think there were stages where I could have thrown the towel in and said, hey, we're done with this, and this Andretti opportunity would never come. But just to stay at it and stay at it. And the reality is, in sport, I'm a firm believer that the guys at the top, the real big players, they can see through a lot of things, on and off the track, and they know who they want to be aligned with. So that's ultimately what I think happened with JF Torman at Andretti and Michael and Rob Edwards and those guys. They get a feel for a person. They put them in the car for a test, and they see what they're working with very fast. Or being around the game for so long, working with so many different drivers, and the big players can see that. Probably no different than any sport. The Willie Mullins of the world in the horse industry, he knows a jockey pretty quickly when he sees him, and he comes into his yard. So that's the way that I look at it, and just stay true to that, and trust the people you have around you, and that was big. I'm very, very fortunate to have an extremely close circle of partners, and advisors, so to speak. And without them, I would have been, in a very, very different scenario. And that is something that, again, I'm extremely fortunate to have, and wouldn't be in this position without them.
Yeah, as you said, the TJ Speed Motor sport team that you were with last season, they were fairly new to it, but you still had a couple of high points even in between some of the difficulties. So there's that run where you're seventh, ninth, seventh between Detroit and Road America, which was last June. What was key to those strong performances?
Ultimately, just staying out of trouble was big for those events. That was a street course, doubleheader street course race in Detroit City, and notoriously rough, concrete walls all around you throughout the lap. So naturally, a lot of mistakes happen as guys lose concentration and stuff. So I think that run, we were on it. We were on a good trajectory there. Just about breaking into the top five, and when you consider there was 4 Andretti cars and 6 HMD cars that are quite strong, that or well quite a lot stronger. There was 10 or 11 cars that had an advantage. So for us to be breaking into that was quite good, and guys noticed that, and that's, as I said, what sparked all these conversations. But for those events, yeah, staying out of trouble, and then things plateaued a bit from there, and there was a bit of a shake up on the TJ side in the program, and HMD then gave me an opportunity to join them for a round or two, and then ultimately Topcon, a title partner who I'm very fortunate to have on board, our global corporation, and turned around and said, hey, we're loving what we're doing here in North America. This is a huge success off the track for our clients and guests. We've had over 350 customers at their races throughout the last 2 years. Said, hey, we want to do this in Europe, and put together a program over there to race on Lamborghini GT3 in Europe for the back half of this past season, in which we went and did. And thankfully, we're back to winning ways there pretty quickly. We won in Vallelunga and podiumed in Monza, and a lot of good results there. So that was really, that was the year in a whole.
Yeah, and just on those sort of latter categories that as you mentioned, Lamborghini and racing elsewhere, do you kind of find that a little bit exhilarating? Because obviously you have your main goal, but then you get the opportunity to drive other machinery and try other things out.
Yeah, no, it was great to drive it. It was a very different mindset. Obviously, in sports cars, you're now in a closed cockpit, ABS, traction control, 2 teammates in the same car, different guys with different preferences. You have to compromise on seat positions and what you want the car to do in given phases of the corner. So that was quite interesting. But ultimately, I'm a firm believer it's 4 wheels, a steering wheel, and 3 pedals. So it is what it is. You just make the most out of what you got, and it was just a great experience, and we won, and we're up front, and I came back with trophies, and that's what this game is about. It's results based industry. So yeah, it was great, and also to further my contacts and connections and spread my name within the motorsport world here in Europe was good, and it made me busy too. I had 18 transatlantic flights this year with the dual program in Europe and North America. So the old air miles account was shooting up.
Yeah, and your schedule for this 2023 season, so it's going to be largely the same. Just comparing it to the way 2022 is. I think there's only one minor change in track for this season, so that must be beneficial for you because you've been through it already, and it's just a case of now in a stronger team with Andretti to just take that challenge on.
That's ultimately it. Yeah, that's it. I'm solely focused on North America this year. Obviously, if if extreme opportunities pop up elsewhere around the globe, we'll take them. We've had offers to do stuff in Europe and in Asia and different things this year. But I'm so focused on North America, Indy NXT and IndyCar, Indy 500, that I really want to give it everything, and to win in this championship, it takes absolutely everything. That's the bottom line. There's Indy Pro champions, Formula 3 champions, Japanese F3 champions, Formula 4 champions, British F3 champions, W Series champions. The championship is just full of winners. So to win in it, it takes everything you got. And that's what I'm committed to doing this year, and going to be working extremely hard out of Indianapolis, where my apartment is and where the team's based. And it's going to be a full on assault over there.
Yeah, and to make that goal of getting to IndyCar and also racing in the Indy 500, to make that a reality, what needs to happen this year in terms of your targets?
There is no set target, so to speak. There's not a number put on it. But ultimately perform, get results, win races, show what I can do in top equipment, and ultimately off track as well, make sure all our partners and sponsors are getting return on investment, and we're doing what we say we're going to do. And I guess if we're winning on the track and off the track, there's no reason you won't see us in IndyCar next year.
Yeah, and just one interesting thing I was just reading in regards to what was the old Indy Lights. So there was the change in the scholarship prize fund, which was reduced from $1.2 million to 500K. That's for the previous champion, and the remaining 700K is then being redistributed between the teams that finished top four in races. What effect does that have, I suppose, for drivers coming through? I mean, is it an impediment, or is it as much of an effect as it looks like on paper?
Look, it ultimately boils down to how your contract's written. If you write your contract that all the prize money comes to you, that's great, because you're getting that bulk of that 700 into your account anyhow, and you're going to get the 500 at the end of the year. But if your contract's written elsewise and you're not getting that, and it's all going to the team, and we're going to other sources, and you're only left with 500 at the end of the year, sure, it's a major hit. So in fact, my very good friend Linus Lundqvist is in a tricky scenario at the moment. Extremely talented driver, won everything on the way up, won Indy Lights last year, and based off that change, he is in a tough spot. So as I said, it's based on how your contracts are written. It'll affect some guys more than others. But I think we're ultimately yet to see the true effect of it. It's very unfortunate how it's affecting Linus right now, because he deserves to be there in buckets. He's the guy's just a phenomenal driver and a phenomenal guy off the track as well. So he's working on it, and whoever grabs him will be in a good spot. But yeah, as I said, it depends on the driver and their circumstances based on what was written in their contracts.
Yeah, and what's it been like? I suppose being back home as well. Obviously, you're returning to the US in a short period of time, but I guess it's nice to recharge, especially around Christmas with family, and also just being back in your home country.
Yeah, it was just nice to be somewhere for 3 weeks without moving. As I said, we did 18 transatlantic flights last year, 96 internal flights. It was a lot of flying. Every 3 days I was going to an airport, going somewhere, and it ultimately catches up with you. I spent the last 3 weeks of December on the road in North America, from Indy to California to Texas, Florida, New York, you name it. We were all around, and that's what goes on in this industry, off track when we're putting these programs together. So to come back and see family, see friends, relax was very, very nice. And now we're back in camp for the next number of weeks, training extremely hard twice a day, and working with the team. So full systems go over here.
Yeah, and I suppose finally, before I let you go, as you said, there's a lot of prep that goes into it, and working twice a day as well as you get closer to the start date of the season in March. So in terms of, I suppose, the physical work you have to do in the build up, and also then when testing starts, what does it entail over the next 2-3 months?
Ultimately, it's just to get a lot stronger, which was a bit of a shock, honestly, because we were very strong, or physically fine on the Cooper tires last year, but the championship is now switching to a different brand of tire, Firestone tire, which produces a lot more grip. So the steering wheel is extremely heavy. So the team have been advising us and batting the hammer on the physicality side, and making sure their drivers are strong enough. So basically, it's get stronger and get to a lighter weight of a target weight that I have to be to the team set for me to be at. So I'm trying to build muscle on one side and lose fat on the other. So it's pretty cruel, to be honest with you.
Yeah, Christmas dinner doesn't help with that either, anyway,
No,
from my
that's for sure.
experience. But
That's for
anyway,
sure.
look, James, like obviously an exciting move for you to Andretti Autosport for the 2023 season, the Indy NXT by Firestone Series, of course, give it its official name. James, thanks a billion for your time, and obviously best of luck for the year ahead.
Thank you, Raf. I appreciate it as always. Great to chat with you.